The film opens in Yorkshire, 1996, where we see a young girl named Claire planning to use her younger friend, Danny, to steal some candies from their town shop. Claire convinces Danny to distract the shopkeeper by pretending he's lost his dad. As Danny goes to the shopkeeper, Claire fills her bag and walks outside. She sees a man entering the shop, but she ignores him and stops in the dark alley behind the shop, where she eats her sweets and waits for Danny. She hears humming sounds from behind the trash cans, so she gets scared and walks back into the shop to look for Danny. She even asks the shopkeeper, who claims that Danny's father found him and took him away. Knowing that wasn't the truth, Claire walks out to look for him. In the opening credits, we see missing kids posters pasted all across the town, revealing hundreds of unsolved cases in Yorkshire. One poster turns out to be of Danny's, who's never found like the other kids. The town's locals team up with the search teams and cops to look for the missing kids in the never-ending Moor, but they never find a single kid. Cut to 25 years later, we see Claire has all grown up. She's having tea with Danny's father, Bill, who still hasn't stopped looking for Danny and is hell-bent on getting closure to what actually happened to Danny. He wants Claire to talk about Danny on her underrated podcast. Now that Claire's processed her traumas, she hesitantly agrees to help Bill. Following this, Bill drives Claire to the Moor for search purposes. He introduces Claire to his friend and the town's ranger, Liz, who will be helping them on the Moor. Scenes shift to a documentary consisting of interviews with the town's detective, a local woman, and a construction worker. They talk about the terror that spread back in the days. When kids started going missing, the town searched the Moor multiple times, and cops arrested multiple suspects, but the lost kids were never found. Claire is seen watching the documentary. Bill is also there, who shows Claire the map of the Moor and points at the areas where he's looked for Danny and has found nothing. Back to the documentary, the townspeople talk about how it stopped all of a sudden. Up next, Bill goes to search the Moor with Liz, whereas Claire visits the detective, Thornley. She finds out through him that the Moor is way bigger and more outspread than the regular maps show it to be. Claire returns to Bill's place and peeks in from the windows. She spots a psychic using his silly techniques to help Bill mark the areas on the map where he might find Danny. Claire sleeps at Bill's and joins him for the search at early dawn with Liz. She fixes a camera on her chest to record everything and sets off with Bill and Liz. As they move forward on the trail, the weather becomes foggy and unclear. Claire spots two sheep on her way ahead. They come across a pit where they find Danny's shoe in the creek. When they decide to return, Claire realizes they're lost since the sheep she spotted are not on their way. She panics and changes routes, where she spots 3 sheep instead of 2. It messes with her head, but at last, she manages to make it to the road. Subsequently, Bill takes the shoe to the police, hoping for them to reopen Danny's case, but the cops refuse to do so because they caught the man back then and gave him a life sentence of 25 years. We get to see more of the interviews of the townspeople from the past. They talk about how the culprit was arrested by the cops, but the cops refused to reveal his face or identity, which kept the public oblivious to what he looked like or what he might have done to the kids. Scenes continue showing Claire searching for Danny on the Moor, where she gets separated from Bill and Liz. She cites the spitting image of the town from 25 years earlier. She watches little Danny standing at a distance, getting approached by a shadowy entity. As she runs to save him, someone puts a bag over her head. She immediately wakes up out of breath and realizes it was a nightmare. She now visits Bill, who's asking Alex to help them find more than a shoe, but Alex claims all he can do is use items to find other small items or clues. As he continues to argue with Bill about the issue, Alex's daughter, Eleanor, shows up. Alex gets disappointed at Bill for involving his daughter, but Eleanor claims that she came with her own consent. As Alex tries to talk her out of it, Bill joins Claire outside and chats about Alex not wanting to involve Eleanor because she can contact the spirit world and bring in troubles. Despite all that, we see Eleanor contacting the outer world in front of the map. As she touches Danny's newly found shoe, the arrow points itself towards a whole new location, which Bill immediately marks. She becomes weak after this, but Alex helps bring her back. Later that night, Alex is seen preventing Eleanor from helping Bill search the location since this isn't what they signed up for. But Eleanor believes her help can speed things up for Bill. They drive to the Moor early in the morning. On their way, Claire talks to Eleanor, who claims she senses that the Moor doesn't want them here. They spend some time wandering around until Eleanor connects with a spirit. By evening, Eleanor gets connected to the ghost of a little girl and tries to use her to get to Danny. She asks the little girl about her life or parents, but all she remembers is the atrocities and darkness she experienced before death. Claire gets distracted by the thick mist forming a shape behind her, but ignores it when Eleanor starts running after the girl's ghost. Eleanor ends up falling in a ditch. Alex helps bring Eleanor back to the real world, but she gets stuck. Alex picks her up and lets Bill dig the ground Eleanor fell upon. The ditch's side wall cracks open on its own, erecting the corpse of the little girl Eleanor was in contact with. In the next scene, Eleanor wakes up from yet another nightmare. As 4 weeks pass by, Claire calls Eleanor to know her nightmares are getting worse. Through their conversation, we find out that the girl's body they found is not identified by their town's cops, meaning she was a victim from another town. Her autopsy has also revealed that she was killed a few years before all the kids started going missing in their town. Meanwhile, Bill watches the cops make yet another unsuccessful attempt at looking for Danny and the others on the moor. Next, Eleanor tells Alex and Claire that she has a guardian soul named Thomas, who protects her from the lurking evil in the spirit world. She explains that he doesn't contact her directly, but he can help them through Eleanor's body. She lets Thomas take over her, who's not of much help at first, but when Bill goes against Alex and desperately asks Thomas to find Danny, the map magically gets soaking wet, and the pointer walks itself over a new location. Despite Alex thinking it's a bad idea to go there, Claire wishes to search that area. This time, they take a different route on the moor and come across a tall, ancient, carved stone that happens to be 5,000 years old. After talking about it for a while, they move ahead. The weather gets dangerously windy and rainy ahead. They set up a tent there, but Eleanor tells everyone Thomas senses something too strong and evil here. She suggests leaving, but that is out of the option. As the night falls, they are all seen conversing. Alex and Bill get into an argument, after which Bill leaves the tent. He stops by to pee. Liz is also behind him. Bill sees a shadow and starts running after it. He ends up stepping foot on quicksand and gets stuck. Luckily, Liz comes after him and helps him. Back in the tent, Alex also walks out for a stroll. Left behind, Claire finally opens up about the looming guilt she feels and how she blames herself for Danny's disappearance, which prompted her to leave town with her parents. Suddenly, Claire spots something odd outside the tent, but it's just Alex returning. Simultaneously, Eleanor alerts everyone that Thomas has been scared and left her alone. As she continues rambling about the doors to the spirit world getting opened, we see a complete change of demeanor in Alex, which triggers Eleanor. She begins screaming, hearing which Bill and Liz return to her. Liz immediately calls for help, but the evil spirits intercept the signals. The spirits can be heard by the others now that Eleanor has become an open gateway for the spirits. Among many voices, Bill recognizes Danny's voice. Soon after this, the spirits try to use her to come out into the real world. Eleanor's eyes get bloodshot, and her joints fold. Everyone runs out of the tent out of fear, but when they hear Eleanor's screams in her own voice, they return and find her unconscious. Claire stays back while Bill and Liz go out to look for Alex. At a far distance, they find Alex, who never returned to the tent after the fight, revealing the evil had come in his form to trigger Eleanor. There, they come across a herd of sheep with their eyes poked out, so they make a quick return to the tent. Alex holds Eleanor in his arms and cries out loud. The next morning, while Liz calls for help, she sees stone carvings on the spots they saw the blind sheep. Eleanor gets transported back to the hospital. Liz drives Claire and Bill home, where she admits that she won't ever help Bill again. Claire also gets a call from Detective Thornley, who tells her not to visit the moor since the culprit has run away from the prison miraculously. On the other hand, Bill is fixated on making another trip, but Claire gets scared of him and tries to tell him there's no one to help them after the incident. Bill claims that he's prepared on his own. That night, Claire sneaks out of there and returns home. We see her open up about her recent traumas in her podcast, during which we get to see that Bill kidnaps her while she's throwing out the trash. Through her webcam on the chest, we get to see Bill holding her at gunpoint and taking her back to the moor, where he comes across more ancient stone carvings. She keeps falling from weakness, and also witnesses a blind sheep smacking its head against the stone until it dies. She gets freaked out and asks Bill about what's going on. That's when Bill reveals he found out from the dead that since the Stone Age, the white folks used to bring kids to the moor and suffocate them to death here to sacrifice them and appeal to the evil that lived here. He also found out that it was Claire who was supposed to be sacrificed, but they got Danny instead. Now we see Bill shoot Claire's shoulder and someone running in the thick fog. Claire falls in the quicksand. As she slowly gets engulfed by the quicksand, she sees a silhouette of little Danny reuniting with his father. Here, the film ends.
I am sure you liked the story recap. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps like that.